What's going on, my man?
How are you?
Super. Awesome. Beautiful Monday.
It is a beautiful Monday. I mean, it's fall. I feel like it actually feels like fall now,
Yep.
my wife's excited about. It means she gets to go decorate everything. But it's also kind of weird, kind of holiday, kind of not. I mean, what is a holiday for a real estate agent, Rick Hale?
when,
It means
when,
houses sell.
yeah, right. It depends. Whenever you decide it is, that's the gift. You can do or not do, and we're here to help you do better.
Yeah, I think one of the ironies of real estate, Rick, is whether you plan to or not, if you take a vacation, everything sells. If there's a holiday, everybody wants to see a house. Like Columbus Day, now it's Indigenous Peoples Day. I know banks are closed. I'm hoping the trash guy picks up my trash today because it's normal trash day. But nonetheless, the government shut down. I don't know. Are we selling houses today or what?
We are absolutely selling houses.
All right, let's hit it.
If you guys could turn on your videos, it's way more fun to see your beautiful faces on this wonderful Monday.
Yes, it is.
I see you, mine. What's going on?
Come on. All right, we're gonna go. There's Sarah.
There's
Hey,
Sarah.
Sarah.
What's up?
I'm gonna hit these numbers quick.
Brittany,
So
come
Fulton,
on. Melinda, yes. All right, let's go.
let's go. All right. Uh, or this Fulton County, 1124. Looks like inventory's holding pretty good. 107 went under contract, Rick, in the last 7 days. I'll take it. We had
Okay.
125 and 137 the week before, so maybe it's a little bit slowing down. 231 are pending and 169 closed out, but we had two big weeks the week before. So maybe it's just a little lull in here in the middle of October. DeKalb County 728, which is a big number for October. DeKalb County 74 under contract with 183 pending, 92 closed out. Same story. Two big weeks the weeks before in what closed out in DeKalb County. So one of my storylines, Rick, is it feels like the market's speeding up right now. And I certainly can kind of see that. We had a weird September, but it certainly looks like the market's starting to speed up. I think a lot of that has to do with interest rates, right? Like we're at a 6.32 as of Friday, close the business. But if I jump out to Cobb County, big inventory active status changes starting out October, 70 active under contract, little bit slower than what we were seeing in August, but faster than what we were seeing in September. And then 182 pending is a pretty healthy number out in Cobb County with 156 closed out and two big weeks the week before. Still a pretty healthy week in Cobb County. What do you see, Rick Hale?
Exactly what you're pointing out. I think inventory, holding steady or increasing, which is not always the case this time of year, headed into fourth quarter. And there's volume. People are closing deals. So if you're not getting your unfair share, maybe examine where the fish are or where you're fishing and the type of approach that you're taking, because there are deals to be done.
Yep. All right, moving on. I never owned a pet rock. Did anybody on this call ever own a pet rock?
What?
Apparently, it was a thing. Somebody owned a pet rock. Somebody put googly eyes on rocks and made $1 million years ago. And it was a fad. Like you had to have a pet rock in your pocket, apparently. Um, I don't know. Rick, am I crazy? Did anybody
Don't
own a
look to
pet?
me because I'm older than you, but
I
yeah,
understand. That's
I
why I'm looking
remember
at
it was a
you.
thing, but
Okay.
it wasn't my thing.
So what's interesting is this Best lady is making a an analogy that's saying private listing networks are the newest pet rock, and she said private listing networks are the latest pet rock, a fad for sure, created by a brokerage trying to outrun and outscale aggregators like Zillow. The spin is somewhat clever, make it appear as if sellers need more choice, as if brokerages and agents are doing that already and haven't been for decades. Um, Kind of makes sense to me. Like our industry gets caught up in fads and shiny pennies and strategies. I think there's some truth to private listing networks, but there's a lot of cautionary tales around private listing networks. I tell all our agents all the time, like, we have technology we could turn on tomorrow to make this happen. We just haven't turned it on because we're not sure it's the right strategy. And the industry's kind of fighting it out legally, maybe. There's certain players that want to do private listing networks. There's a lot of players that think it's a horrible thing. We're kind of in the middle. We're waiting to see what's the right strategy for our agents. But yet, is it a pet rock? I kind of like the joke of it. I don't know. Rick, what's your thoughts?
I think it's like a sparkler, man. They light up and look fancy and fun, but they don't go anywhere or do anything. I think long term, the first lawsuit that comes about where a consumer feels hurt or harmed by not getting full exposure probably derails the entire initiative.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. All right, this one I really want you to hear and pay attention to. So, Realtor.com does a study and it's backed by data, and it says the best time to buy a home in 2025 officially kicks off October 12th. This week offers the most favorable market conditions of the year. Think more listings, lower prices, less competition. So we were talking about this in our top 10% agent mastermind last week. And Jenny Smith was telling me, she's up in the Cartersville location, that her and her team are doing a giant marketing blitz and holding every house open they have this week under the messaging, hey, it's the best time to buy a home in 2025, according to Realtor.com. I think that message is timely, and it is, if anything, it's a little bit of a buyer potential clickbait for you. And should you be leveraging this message today? I think so. I mean, it's not the best time to sell, but it's the best time to buy. And, you know, half our business comes from buyers, half comes from sellers. So it's certainly speaking to the half that buy. Yet, what do you do with this information? So simply, Rick, I went to GPT this morning and I typed in, please write me a social media reel for this article. And I gave him the link to the article. And it wrote all this context for me. And so what does the real estate agent of tomorrow look like? Gary made comment, and I was sharing this with the top 10% agents last week, is he said he's not ready to put it in a book or stand on stage and scream it yet, but he almost believes that since database has always been the foundation of a real estate agent's business, and build a database and drip on it and market to it, he said, I still think that's the foundation of a real estate agent's business. However, he said, I almost think social media might be a little more important than that right now. He's I'm not saying it's unimportant, but he's saying social media is so powerful that it may be slightly more important than that database conversation. And I was like, man, I feel like we're trying to move our agents this direction by doing this, you know, the scripting and this content delivery. And then I thought to myself, man, am I modeling this as the leader? So I took this morning and where'd it go? So I emailed it to Danielle and I said, hey, make me an AI video with the following. So she sent me an AI video, and Rick, it was horrible. It was so bad. So then I turned my camera around and I recorded. And this is what I recorded. And I'm just showing you for uh, all purposes of I'm trying to model this for you guys. And I've recorded this video, 30 seconds, and you can watch it.
Maybe it gave you a good
People,
template.
October 12th through the 18th, according to Realtor.com, is the absolute best time to buy a house. Inventory is up. Prices are slightly down. Competition is down. All the factors that make it a great time for you to buy a house. Let's get prepared, get you organized.
Uh-oh.
You're ready to go week of 2025. Hit me up, social media, text me. Let's go.
So is that hard?
No.
Talk to me. Yeah, but what's the if we know this is where the industry is going, and you show up every week to listen to Rick and I talk about industry content, and we almost give you the scripts. I just, if I'm honest, I don't see a lot of agents putting it out there. So what's the roadblock? Let's talk to us. What's keeping you from taking this kind of stuff and doing it? Be honest.
Maybe we get clear, Brett. The whole motive behind doing this is to get eyeballs and ears, heads and hearts intrigued. All you really want is to spark a conversation. And I would argue with you, this may be the best time for you to list your house because it's highly circumstantial, highly personal. There are no good or bad markets. There are just markets. And your job as a real estate professional is to help them win in any market. And that's the conversation you want to have. If you're buying and selling in the same market, it's almost irrelevant when it is, whether it's up or down. So you can't, it's hard to effectively time it, in other words. But the goal is just to create intrigue. And I think that's what you did.
Yeah, and I think, I would use this industry update as that thing on the calendar, right? Like you were talking about we got to put on the calendar. Well, I would almost block the 15 minutes after this call every week and produce a video. Take something we did, block 15 minutes, produce a video, and get it out for the week. And that's kind of my goal for you guys is, and I realize we talk about it a lot, so I'm trying to model it. And do I love myself on video? No, I noticed I had some dry skin and I probably was zoomed in a little too far, and I didn't shave very well today because apparently it's a holiday ring. But does it matter? I guess that's the question, right?
It does. And Iman, can I call you out? So those that don't know Iman Heisler, she is an amazingly original, creative, and fun person. And so I see comments like, I think you have to get over the hump of thinking you're embarrassing yourself, or too much focus is on making the perfect video. If y'all are not friends with Iman right now on Facebook or YouTube, wherever it is that you publish everywhere, you got to jump on, because whatever she's doing, just do something between where you are and where she is, because she's mastered the art of self-defacing humor for the sake of eyeballs and likability. And if you're not capturing that intrigue and likability, you're never going to hurtle into the land of trust, because that's the starting place. So there's my pitch for just try. And people don't want perfect. Perfect is not intriguing at all.
There you go. I think imperfect actually makes you more relatable.
100%. You're exactly right. And
Yeah.
isn't that the goal as a real estate professional? It's highly personal. Relatability is everything.
Yep. All right. So one of the other things Gary Keller talked about last week when I was with him is he said, I want to be clear about something. He goes, I actually think we're probably moving into a little bit of a recessionary period economically. He said, but hear me clearly. He goes, it doesn't mean a housing recession. The housing market's already been in a recession, and we're actually in a recovery period. And I believe interest rates are going to be down under 6 by 2026. And I believe the real estate industry will have completely self corrected by the second half of 2026. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. So real estate's hyper local, yada yada yada. And then I found this article, Rick, and the red states have a high risk of a recession. The green states are an expanding area, and the yellow's kind of neutral. And full disclosure, I saw Georgia on here red, and I was kind of like confused by that for a minute, going, why would Georgia be a high risk for a recession? And I started thinking about, I think pricing is a part of recessionary. I think the job market is a part of recessionary factors. I think consumer spending is a part of recessionary factors. I don't know. What are y'all feeling out there in economically right now?
And can we define a recession?
Yeah, go ahead.
A recession is just consecutive quarters with GDP that goes down, domestic product or spending. And
I call
so,
it the Amazon box.
yeah, and,
Yeah,
and, and there's a vast difference between a recession and a depression. It's just a
yeah.
lull in the market, basically, or a slight dip.
It's
And there's
short term.
varying degrees of impact. And so go ahead. That's all I wanted to make sure we're clear on.
Yeah, I just think people are going to spend less money for a short period of time in Atlanta, but I think I don't know that I necessarily agree with this, is what I'm saying. Uh, I feel like our market is still appreciating. We're projecting prices still going up. If I go to the real estate stats and I look at Atlanta statistics and I try to drill in on GDP and those kinds of things, let me see if I can find it. Of course, it's going to be at the bottom. So, what's unemployment? This is a factor in a recession. It's certainly going up, but in Atlanta, it's still a healthy unemployment level when it loads here. We're still under 4%. Now, this was July, so unemployment data
Some lagging data.
lags, but my suspicion is it's not, it may be close to 4%. So 6% is kind of okay. So it's still healthy employment. GDP in Atlanta is certainly come down, but 2% is healthy. So if GDP were to slide under 2%, I could maybe make a case around that, but it's not. They're projecting 2025 to be 2.4 in Atlanta, which is healthy. It's certainly not 10% we were seeing. And that we feel the consumer spending decline big time, right? Like I judge I joke, but I'm serious. I judge it by how many Amazon boxes I have to bring in the house at when I come home. Like
Your
it's how much
personal recession.
spending is going on. But you think I'm joking, but that's a real like consumer spending is a lot is done on Amazon right now, right?
But there's also the willingness to buy or capacity to spend and buy, and all of it starts with psychology of success and momentum. And the reason that I think Gary also stated that the housing recession would be different than a general recession, and supply and demand drive house prices more than any other factor. And
Yeah.
so we'd have to have a wave of inventory that was pretty significant, I think, to suppress or push home values down, which would then possibly lead to housing recessionary data.
So they're not saying we're in a recession. I want to be very clear, but they're saying we're at risk of recession, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't agree with. I don't see it in the data we check. But this is more of a global picture. We'll see as the months come forward. Um, to your point, Rick, this article talks about housing inventory actually peaked in August this year. And if you were in the real estate market, you felt it. Like the increase of new listings coming on the market was so fast compared to what we've seen over previous years. And if you look at this chart down here, what did housing inventory look like in 2025? Like this is October 2025. We're sitting here with 856,000 listings, right? But it was higher in 2019 and it didn't feel awkward. And how low was it in the previous years compared to where we're at now is why we're feeling that change, right? Because it was anytime there's a shift in change, you feel it, right? But the way I think about this, Rick, is just simply the supply and demand, right? Like if supply was going up so fast, but demand wasn't rising at the same level, we were creating that gap, which is what was putting our market a little bit at risk of price depreciation. But we're now saying inventory is coming down, which it does at this time of year. Um, but we're also saying buyer demand is increasing. And if interest rates get down under 6%, buyers are going to put that foot on the gas pedal and we're going. And if inventory comes down, buyer demand goes up, there's no recession in the future. It's going to move fast because the market needs us to sell houses for people to go buy furniture, go buy dishes, go spend money at Home Depot on projects. And the housing market's one of the biggest factors that drives consumer spending. So they actually don't want to go into recession. And if they can help housing move faster, it actually insulates us from having any kind of recession in the economy. What do you think, Rick? Am I talking out my head, or you
No,
believe?
it
Yeah,
mitigates risk, but
yeah.
last reminder is that it's a local market. Local markets still reign supreme. This is national statistics. So back to Georgia, and even Georgia is a big macro view. So what's going on in your local area? Are people moving there? Is it attractive and tipping the scales of supply and demand? This is where your local expertise should be embedded in the narrative or the social media posting that you do to go, hey, by the way, my neighborhood is fill in the blank, and make it intriguing, fun, and fact based.
Yeah, and to your point, Rick, when we track all these things, this is Atlanta. Well, the state of Georgia is very drastically different from Augusta to Athens to Columbus to Savannah and Valdosta. There's probably a lot of areas in Georgia that probably aren't experiencing the same economic factors that Metro Atlanta is experiencing.
Spot on.
Yep. All right, last one. Irritation, but we got to hit it. Atlanta sees the largest share of canceled August home sales in US. So obviously there's factors out of our control, but I also believe there's a lot of factors in our control we could do a better job of, i.e., bulletproofing the transaction, i.e., doing a better job of pre-qualifying people, all that fun stuff, right? Um, but why do you think we're seeing the greatest share of pending home sales cancel? What if you had a home cancel, contract cancel, what was the reason it canceled? Talk to us. Nobody on this call had something cancel, huh?
This
I
is
feel like
Stephen.
it was the sellers not agreeing what the buyers' wants were.
Yeah.
And they just kind of refuse. They feel that they should be entitled to what they want, and the sellers were not giving. So I feel that's a couple of transactions that terminated that I had.
Okay.
Yep. And I was just
Mostly
gonna,
around inspections.
yeah, I was gonna echo that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hey,
Um,
Stephen.
honestly, it's the buyer expectations are so high, and if the seller has not prepared and positioned their home well enough, um, you're going in and just like Melinda said, it's the buyers are wanting everything that they can possibly get, and there's more properties out there that they can just go pivot to. If you're not going to meet their demands, seller B might, and they're willing to gamble that away. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. It's frustrating, but setting the expectations from seller side versus the buyer side, that's a huge struggle right now for a lot of agents, I think.
So would you say that sellers are not in alignment with current market conditions?
I believe, yes. Let me just, a quick answer is yes.
Yeah. So that's something we can control, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's an education thing.
Yep.
Also, I'm kind of seeing that they don't have enough funds to contribute towards closing for those repairs. So they're almost maxed out on what their loan amount is and closing cost and buyer's compensation and seller's compensation.
Interesting.
Hmm.
We keep talking about, is there a wave of short sales? Is there a wave of foreclosures on the horizon? And for you to say that they don't have enough funds is weird to me because of the equity creation over the last 5 years in most sellers' homes. But I'm guessing there's quite a few that don't have that equity. I think there's a giant chunk that does, but there's probably still quite a few that don't.
Yep.
Interesting. We need to get trained up on that. What's on your mind, your hearts? What's the question in the marketplace that you're struggling to answer?
I don't have a question, but I did have a comment. I went on a listing appointment this Saturday morning, and it was a luxury home in Rivergreen in Canton. And we have so many resources with our Inspire group that the sellers actually probably didn't need. Like they didn't need seller's edge. Their home was in beautiful condition, didn't need to get anything done. They probably didn't need iFinder, but I went ahead and made sure to make it still a part of my presentation anyway, and just said, hey, these may not be things that you need, but I want to know you to know the resources that we have within our group. And then just showing them that, they were like, wow, we are so impressed by how much ahead you guys are than other agents and other brokerages that I'm going to go ahead and hire you right now on the spot.
I love it.
They decided not to interview, even though they had a luxury property that didn't need those, just showing them that we had so many amazing resources. So kudos to you guys for providing those for us.
Yeah, and I love hearing that, Iman. The thing is sometimes your presentation isn't all necessary, but it also brings your strength in skill and your strength in validity to the table, right? Because you did choose to actually go ahead and present it. So I love that. Thank you for that.
Well, and you didn't make assumptions about what their needs are. That's important too, because what you don't know, if question unasked is a question unanswered.
Boom. All right, guys. Happy Monday. Happy fall. It feels like fall. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.